Commander Vex'lar stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Confederation's flagship, Eternal Glory, his forearms crossed over his chitinous chest as he gazed upon the small blue-green planet. His antennae twitched with anticipation. The humans called it Earth, but soon they would call it nothing. It would simply become Outpost 72B, another conquest in the ever-expanding territory of the Confederation. "Sir, reconnaissance reports are complete," Lieutenant Krzik approached, holding a datapad in one of his lower limbs. "The humans appear technologically primitive. Their most advanced weapons systems are nuclear warheads and kinetic projectile launchers, no energy shields, no quantum targeting, no antimatter capabilities." Vex'lar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for amusement among the Drak'thu species. "And their physical capabilities? Laughable, Commander. Average strength approximately 1/5 of a Drak'thu warrior. Endurance limited by inefficient oxygen-based respiration. Visual spectrum extremely narrow. No natural armor. Soft epidermis that tears easily. Honestly, sir, I'm not sure why High Command even bothered sending us. A single battlecruiser could subjugate this world." "Protocol is protocol, Lieutenant," Vex'lar replied, his compound eyes reflecting the blue planet below. "We follow first contact procedures, even with species destined for servitude. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. I will personally lead the delegation." "Yes, Commander, but is that wise? Our scans show they are quite numerous. Nearly 8 billion of them." Vex'lar turned sharply, his exoskeleton creaking slightly. "Are you suggesting I fear creatures that can't even survive their own atmosphere without artificial coverings? Creatures who break their fragile bones from simple falls? Who require 8 hours of unconsciousness every planetary rotation just to function?" "No, sir, of course not." Krzik backpedaled, lowering his antennae in submission. "Good, because that would be absurd." Vex'lar turned back to the view screen. "Prepare Grand Warrior Drak'thu as well. These humans should witness the physical superiority of the Confederation before negotiations begin." "Brilliant strategy, sir. Obviously, nothing demonstrates the futility of resistance like watching their strongest fighters crumble before our champion." Vex'lar's voice took on a theatrical quality. "And then, when their spirits are broken, we offer them the merciful alternative. Productive servitude in the mines of Vex'lar. Really, we are doing them a favor." The human leaders gathered in a hastily assembled United Nations emergency session looked anxious as the alien shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing with precision on the massive lawn outside UN headquarters in New York City. Media crews from every nation broadcast live, cameras trained on the sleek vessel as its doors hissed open. Commander Vex'lar stepped out first, his 8-foot frame towering over the human security detail. Behind him came Lieutenant Krzik and 4 Drak'thu guards, each carrying what were obviously weapons despite the diplomatic nature of the meeting. But most impressive was the figure that emerged last, Grand Warrior Drak'thu, nearly 10 feet tall, his exoskeleton enhanced with metallic implants that gleamed in the sunlight. "Greetings, humans." Vex'lar's translation device projected his clicks and chirps into English. "I am Commander Vex'lar of the Galactic Confederation. We have come to discuss the terms of your species' incorporation into our glorious union of worlds." The Secretary-General stepped forward, attempting to appear composed despite the obvious physical intimidation of the aliens before him.
"Welcome to Earth, Commander."
"I am Secretary-General Paulo Acosta. We are honored by your visit and look forward to peaceful dialogue between our peoples." Vex'lar's compound eyes scanned the human delegation, noting their nervous postures, their soft, vulnerable bodies. "Yes, dialogue. Most civilized. Before we begin formal discussions, we thought it might be illuminating to demonstrate the physical capabilities of the Confederation, a friendly exhibition, if you will." "What kind of exhibition?" Acosta asked cautiously. "A simple contest of strength and combat prowess. Your finest warrior against ours." Vex'lar gestured to the massive Drak'thu, who flexed his forearms, each thicker than a human thigh. The human delegation whispered among themselves. Vex'lar's antennae picked up fragments. "Intimidation tactic. Show of force. We can't refuse without appearing weak." Finally, Acosta spoke. "We accept your proposal, Commander. However, we request 24 hours to select our representative." Vex'lar clicked his mandibles together. "Very well, though I cannot imagine what difference a planetary rotation will make in the outcome. We shall return tomorrow for this contest. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and do try to select someone who will provide at least a modicum of entertainment for Drak'thu. He does so hate disappointment. Back aboard the Eternal Glory, Lieutenant Krauzik reviewed the incoming intelligence about the humans' response. Commander, the humans are conducting some sort of global search for their champion. Their information networks are buzzing with speculation and debate. Vex'lar waved a dismissive limb. Let them scurry about. It makes no difference who they choose. Have you calculated the mineral wealth of this planet? Yes, sir. Preliminary scans indicate vast deposits of rare elements in their oceanic crust, and their population will provide adequate labor for extraction. Excellent. After tomorrow's demonstration, they will accept our terms without resistance. They seem quite attached to their concept of individual lives. Seeing their champion crushed will break their collective will. Vex'lar's mandibles formed what might generously be called a smile. Truly, these diplomatic missions are becoming too easy, almost boring. Commander, another officer interrupted, we have detected an unusual transport aircraft landing at the human gathering place. It appears to be a primitive military craft carrying a single human. Their champion arrives, Vex'lar said with mock solemnity. Let us hope, for entertainment's sake, they have chosen wisely. The next day, the alien delegation returned to find a considerably larger human audience gathered around a hastily constructed arena on the UN grounds. Bleachers had been erected, and military personnel from various nations stood at attention. In the center was a simple circular combat area, ringed by a low barrier. Commander Vex'lar, Secretary General Acosta greeted them. As agreed, we have selected our representative for this exhibition. Vex'lar's compound eyes surveyed the crowd, not seeing any human who appeared particularly formidable. And where is this champion? Not having second thoughts, are we? He's preparing. As is customary in many human combat traditions, competitors often enter separately with some ceremony. Acosta gestured to a temporary structure at the far end of the arena. He will emerge when the contest begins. How dramatic, Vex'lar remarked dryly. Very well. Drak'thu, prepare yourself. The massive Vex'lar warrior stepped forward, removing his ceremonial armor to reveal his natural exoskeleton, reinforced with cybernetic enhancements. The crowd gasped collectively at the alien's imposing physique. The rules are simple, Vex'lar announced. Combat continues until submission, unconsciousness, or his mandibles click together in amusement, the unfortunate demise of a competitor. No weapons, only natural or integrated physical capabilities. Secretary General Acosta nodded solemnly. Agreed. Then let us begin this formality. Vex'lar signaled, and Drak'thu entered the ring, his footsteps causing tremors in the ground. The mighty warrior raised all four arms above his head in a display of dominance that sent murmurs through the human crowd. A door opened on the opposite side of the arena, and a single human emerged. He was tall by human standards, perhaps 6.5 feet, but still dwarfed by Drak'thu. His build was muscular but lean, nothing that appeared particularly threatening to Vex'lar's experienced eye. The human wore simple black athletic pants and was bare-chested, revealing numerous scars across his torso. This is your champion. Vex'lar couldn't contain his derision. He's not even wearing armor. This is Captain Jackson Harding. Acosta replied calmly. Former Navy SEAL, former UFC heavyweight champion, and current special operations instructor. The human called Harding approached the center of the ring with a relaxed gait. Seemingly unconcerned by the chittering laughter coming from the alien delegation, he stopped a few paces from Drak'thu, looking up at the towering alien with an expression that, to Vex'lar's surprise, appeared to be mild curiosity rather than fear. Your warrior seems remarkably calm for someone about to meet his end, Vex'lar observed. Captain Harding has a unique perspective on combat situations, Acosta replied cryptically. Drak'thu leaned down, his face mere inches from Harding's. Tiny human, the translation device rendered his clicks and chirps. I will try not to kill you too quickly. It would be poor hospitality. The human's response was unexpected. He smiled, not a nervous smile, not a diplomatic smile, but the smile of a predator. Appreciate that, Harding said, his voice surprisingly soft. Same courtesy extends to you, of course. Drak'thu stepped back, momentarily confused by the human's confidence. Then, with a roar that rattled windows in nearby buildings, he charged. What happened next caused Vex'lar's antennae to stiffen in shock. The human didn't retreat. He didn't cower. Instead, he moved with startling speed, sidestepping Drak'thu's charge at the last possible moment. As the massive alien warrior passed, Harding delivered a precise strike to a joint in Drak'thu's leg exoskeleton, a vulnerability that shouldn't have been obvious to a species unfamiliar with Drak'thu physiology. Drak'thu stumbled, regained his balance, and turned with rage in his compound eyes. "Lucky move, human," he bellowed, swinging two massive arms in a sweeping attack. Again, Harding moved with that uncanny speed, ducking under the swing and delivering three rapid punches to Drak'thu's thoracic plating. Not hard enough to damage the exoskeleton, but precisely targeted at nerve clusters beneath. "How does he know our physiology?" Lieutenant Krasik whispered to Vex'lar. "We have never encountered humans before." "He can't possibly," Vex'lar hissed back. "It must be coincidence." But as the fight continued, it became increasingly difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Harding moved with a fluid economy of motion, never wasting energy, always positioning himself to exploit Drak'thu's weaknesses. The human avoided the alien's superior strength, instead using leverage, momentum, and precision strikes to gradually wear down his opponent. "Enough playing," Drak'thu roared after several minutes of increasingly frustrated attacks. He activated his cybernetic enhancements, causing plates in his exoskeleton to shift and lock into a more aggressive configuration. Power surged through his limbs as he lunged forward with twice his previous speed. For the first time, Harding appeared caught off guard. One of Drak'thu's massive fists connected with the human's shoulder, sending him tumbling across the arena floor. The alien delegation chittered in approval as Drak'thu advanced on the fallen human. "Now we end this farce," the Vex'lar warrior growled, raising two fists to deliver a crushing blow. But Harding rolled at the last moment, springing to his feet with that same unnerving calm. There was blood running from a cut on his forehead, yet he maintained that predatory smile. "Nice hit," he said, rolling his shoulder. "Now I know what I'm dealing with." What followed was a transformation that sent whispers of unease through the alien delegation. The human's demeanor shifted subtly. His eyes, previously alert but calm, now focused with an intensity that seemed to pierce through Drak'thu's exoskeleton. His movements, already quick, became blindingly fast, yet perfectly controlled. "Commander," Krasik whispered urgently, "something's wrong. His biochemical readings are changing dramatically. Adrenaline levels exceeding our predictive models. Heart rate elevated but controlled. His muscle fiber recruitment efficiency is impossible for their species." Vex'lar watched in growing disbelief as Harding launched a counterattack. The human no longer avoided Drak'thu's strength. He met it, redirected it, and exploited it. When the Vex'lar warrior swung, Harding would catch the momentum of the blow and use it to position himself for strikes at critical joints and nerve clusters. "He's adapting," Vex'lar muttered, his mandibles clicking nervously. Mid-combat, Drak'thu began to slow, his movements becoming labored as damage accumulated. His exoskeleton, designed to withstand impacts far greater than any human could generate, was being systematically compromised at its weakest points. The cybernetic enhancement sparked and sputtered as precision strikes disrupted their connections. The human crowd, initially silent with tension, began to murmur as the tide turned. Some were cheering now, while others watched in stunned silence. "Impossible," Drak'thu gasped after a particularly devastating sequence left one of his arms hanging uselessly. "What are you?" Harding paused, maintaining a perfect combat distance. "Human," he replied simply, "but you should know something about humans." He circled Drak'thu with predatory grace. "We evolved as persistent hunters. We don't need to be the strongest or the fastest. We just need to keep coming until you can't run anymore." With a desperate roar, Drak'thu charged again, all his remaining strength behind a final assault. Harding met the charge head-on. What followed was too fast for even Vex'lar's compound eyes to fully track. A series of strikes, locks, and leverage points that ended with the massive Vex'lar warrior crashing to the ground, immobilized. Silence fell across the arena as Harding stood over his fallen opponent, not even breathing heavily. He leaned down and spoke quietly to Drak'thu, but Vex'lar's sensitive antennae caught the words. "That was just one human. One, and I'm not even close to our best. Think about that before you threaten our planet again." Harding straightened and walked calmly back to his side of the arena as medical teams rushed to attend to the fallen alien warrior. The Vex'lar stood frozen, his worldview collapsing around him. "How?" he finally managed to ask as Secretary General Acosta approached.
How is this possible?
"Your species is physically inferior in every measurable way." Acosta smiled, an expression Vex'lar was beginning to recognize as dangerous when coming from humans. "Perhaps you measured the wrong things, Commander. This changes nothing," Vex'lar bluffed, his antennae betraying his agitation. "One unusual specimen doesn't alter the military reality. The Confederation still has overwhelming technological superiority, does it?" Acosta raised an eyebrow. "I wonder, Commander, did your reconnaissance include a careful study of our entertainment media, our literature, our history?" "What nonsense is this?" Vex'lar demanded. "You see, Commander, humans have been preparing for your arrival for generations. Not literally, of course. We didn't know you existed specifically, but we have been imagining, planning, and training for the possibility." Acosta gestured to the departing Harding. "Captain Harding spent the last 24 hours studying the footage of your arrival, analyzing your physiology, consulting with xenobiologists about probable vulnerabilities based on your structure. In a single planetary rotation." Vex'lar's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "We adapt quickly," Acosta said with a shrug. "It's what allowed us to become the dominant species on a planet full of predators much stronger, faster, and better armed than ourselves." Vex'lar's compound eyes narrowed. "You have made a grave miscalculation, human. The Confederation doesn't take defeat lightly. This demonstration will only bring our full military might against your world." Acosta's smile didn't waver. "Before you make threats, Commander, perhaps you should check on your ship." As if on cue, Lieutenant Krazik approached, his posture radiating alarm. "Commander, we have lost contact with the Eternal Glory." "What?" Vex'lar's antennae went rigid. "It's still there, sir," Krazik clarified, "but it's not responding to communications, and our sensors detect unusual energy patterns around the hull." Acosta cleared his throat. While Captain Harding was providing this demonstration, other measures were being taken. "Your ship is currently surrounded by a fleet of what you might call previously undisclosed Earth vessels. We thought it best to keep certain technological capabilities reserved until we better understood your intentions." "Impossible," Vex'lar hissed. "Our scans showed no such capabilities." "Yes, well," Acosta smiled again. "It seems your reconnaissance had some gaps. Perhaps in your next report to your Confederation you might mention that Earth would be interested in peaceful relations, but is fully prepared for alternatives." Vex'lar's mind raced, reassessing everything he thought he knew about humans. One thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. They had severely, catastrophically underestimated this species. "This isn't over," he managed finally. "No," Acosta agreed, his smile fading into something more serious. "I rather think it's just beginning. Now, shall we discuss those terms of incorporation again? I believe we have some amendments to propose." As medical personnel carried the still unconscious Drak'thu back to their shuttle, Vex'lar couldn't help but notice the expressions on the human faces around him. They weren't afraid, they weren't even particularly angry. They looked interested, like predators evaluating new prey. And for the first time since landing on this seemingly insignificant blue planet, Commander Vex'lar felt something unfamiliar creep through his exoskeleton: fear. But the true revelation, the true horror that would change the Confederation forever, was still to come. Because Captain Jackson Harding wasn't Earth's apex predator. He wasn't even close. He was just the first warning shot in what would become the most shocking realization in Confederation history. The humans were coming to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Preposterous, absolutely preposterous. Admiral Zivgor's holographic projection dominated the shuttle's command center, his mandibles clicking furiously. "You mean to tell me that a single, unaugmented human defeated our grand warrior, and now they claim to have technology capable of neutralizing one of our battle cruisers?" Commander Vex'lar fought to maintain his composure. "The evidence suggests they concealed their true capabilities. Admiral, I recommend—" "You recommend? You recommend?" The Admiral's compound eyes flashed with bioluminescent anger. "Your incompetence has created a diplomatic catastrophe. The Confederation Council is in uproar. We have never retreated from a Class 4 civilization before." Lieutenant Krazik shifted uncomfortably beside Vex'lar. "Sir, if I may, Our preliminary analysis of the human known as Harding indicates that he's not genetically enhanced or artificially augmented. He's simply naturally evolved. Naturally evolved to exploit Vex'lar weaknesses that he couldn't possibly have known about until 24 hours ago. The Admiral's antennae quivered with skepticism. That's what makes them dangerous, sir. Vex'lar said quietly, their adaptability exceeds anything in our databases. They observe, analyze, and counter with remarkable speed, and according to their leader, Harding isn't even considered exceptional among their warriors. The Admiral's hologram flickered as he paced, all 6 limbs gesticulating in agitation. The Council demands answers, Commander. You will remain on Earth as our diplomatic envoy while we reassess the situation. Lieutenant Krozik will command the Eternal Glory once our technicians regain control from whatever the humans have done to it. Sir, Vex'lar protested, remaining planet-side could be extremely dangerous if the humans— Are you afraid, Commander? The Admiral's voice dripped with disdain. Vex'lar straightened his posture. Cautious, Admiral, as any rational being would be when confronted with an unknown threat. Your caution comes too late. Establish a proper embassy. Learn everything you can about these humans. The Council has authorized a research team to join you. The Admiral's image leaned forward. And Vex'lar, do not fail again. The consequences would be severe. The transmission ended, leaving Vex'lar and Krozik in uncomfortable silence. Commander, Krozik finally spoke. The medical team reports that Drak'thu's injuries were precisely targeted to disable without causing permanent damage. The human could have killed him at multiple points during the combat but chose not to. The Vex'lar's antennae twitched thoughtfully. A demonstration then, not just of capability, but of restraint. He turned to gaze out the viewport at the sprawling human city. Perhaps that's even more terrifying. 3 weeks later, Vex'lar stood in the newly established Confederation embassy, a repurposed human structure near their United Nations complex. The research team, led by the renowned xenobiologist Dr. Tazkar, had arrived 5 days ago and was already producing disturbing reports. You must see this, Commander, Dr. Tazkar said, her slender limbs manipulating a holographic display. Unlike the warrior caste Vex'lar, the scientist caste had evolved thinner exoskeletons and more dexterous appendages. We have been monitoring their information networks, and the humans are fascinating. The display showed hundreds of video feeds, text documents, and audio recordings. What am I looking at, Doctor? Vex'lar asked impatiently. Their response to us, she replied, compound eyes gleaming with excitement. Since our arrival, human entertainment and information channels have been flooded with speculation, analysis, and preparation scenarios. They are treating our appearance as a species-wide emergency drill. She magnified one feed showing human military personnel studying holographic images of Vex'lar physiology. They are disseminating Drak'thu's combat data to their warriors globally. Training programs are being developed to counter our physical advantages. That's to be expected, Vex'lar said dismissively. Perhaps, but this isn't. She switched to another feed showing human children in what appeared to be an educational setting, playing a simulation game. Vex'lar leaned closer and realized with shock that the children were practicing diplomatic negotiations with simulated Vex'lar. They are preparing their young, he muttered. Not just preparing them, Tazkar corrected, exciting them. Their juvenile entertainment has always been saturated with stories of extraterrestrial contact. Many humans, especially the young, see our arrival not as a threat, but as a fulfillment of cultural anticipation. They have been psychologically primed for this moment for generations. The Vex'lar's mandibles clicked nervously. And their technological capabilities, have we determined how they concealed them from our scans? Partially, Tazkar brought up new data. Their technological development follows a different pattern than Confederation species. Rather than steady logical progression, they experience rapid, chaotic innovation with many parallel and competing approaches. Some technologies advance exponentially while others stagnate. Our scanning protocols were designed to detect logical technological progress, not whatever this is. A junior researcher approached, carrying a datapad. Dr. Commander, we have completed the analysis of human combat doctrine throughout their history. And? Vex'lar prompted. It's unsettling, sir. Unlike Confederation species who evolved standardized combat methods based on our natural capabilities, Humans developed thousands of different fighting styles across their planet, each adapted to specific environments and threats. When these styles encounter each other, they rapidly incorporate effective elements from their opponents. Their combat methodology is constantly evolving. Like a virus, Vex'lar murmured. An apt metaphor, Commander, Tazkar agreed. And there's more. Their historical records indicate that humans often make their greatest technological leaps during periods of conflict. The more threatened they feel, the faster they innovate. Vex'lar turned away from the displays, his exoskeleton feeling suddenly heavy. And we just threatened their entire planet. Precisely, Tazkar said, her voice carrying an inappropriate note of scientific excitement. We may have inadvertently triggered an unprecedented innovation response. The diplomatic office reports that 17 human nations have already submitted requests for technological exchange program. They want our technology? Vex'lar asked, surprised. No, Commander, Tazkar corrected. They want to share theirs. Secretary General Acosta smiled pleasantly across the conference table at Vex'lar, but the Drak'thu commander had learned enough about human facial expressions to recognize the predatory calculation behind the expression. We appreciate the Confederation's decision to establish proper diplomatic relations, Acosta said, and we are particularly interested in your request for a demonstration of our space-based capabilities. Mere scientific curiosity, Vex'lar lied smoothly. The Confederation values understanding all sentient species. Of course, Acosta nodded. We have arranged a small demonstration for tomorrow. Nothing too impressive by your standards, I'm sure, but we thought it might be illuminating. The casual confidence in the human's voice sent an uncomfortable sensation through Vex'lar's nervous system. 3 standard cycles ago, these humans had appeared to be easy conquest targets. Now they were speaking to him as equals, or worse, as if they were humoring him. I look forward to it, Vex'lar managed. On another matter, my research team has requested access to your historical military archives. For cultural understanding, naturally. Naturally. Acosta echoed with that same unsettling smile. We'd be happy to provide access. In exchange, we'd appreciate information about the other species in the Confederation. For cultural understanding, of course. Vex'lar's antennae stiffened. The request was reasonable on its face, but giving humans information about potential allies or enemies seemed dangerously unwise. I will need to consult with my superiors. Take your time, Acosta said generously. Oh, and Commander? Captain Harding asked me to convey his regards. He mentioned he found your warrior's exoskeleton fascinating and hopes to have another opportunity for cultural exchange. It took all of Vex'lar's diplomatic training not to flinch. The next day, Vex'lar, Tazkar, and 2 junior researchers stood on the observation deck of a human space station. Getting here had been the first shock. Instead of the primitive chemical rockets their initial scans had detected, they'd been transported via a sophisticated matter stream technology that the humans called practical quantum entanglement transport. We developed it about 15 years ago, the human guide, Director Amara Kimathi, explained casually, but kept it classified until recently, primarily for military applications initially, but now we use it at approximately 30% of orbital transports. Tazkar was practically vibrating with scientific curiosity. The energy requirements must be enormous. They were, Kimathi acknowledged, until Dr. Layton's breakthrough with ambient zero-point energy extraction. That's what powers most of our advanced systems now. Vex'lar exchanged alarmed glances with Tazkar. Zero-point energy extraction was theoretical even in Confederation science. If humans had actually achieved it, Director Kimathi, he said carefully, our initial scans showed no evidence of such technology. The human woman's smile reminded him uncomfortably of Acosta's.
Yes. Well?
We have become quite good at managing our electromagnetic signatures.
Necessity.
You understand? Our history is full of conflicts, where detection meant destruction. She led them to a large viewport, overlooking Earth. The demonstration will begin momentarily. We thought you might appreciate seeing our response capability to potential threats. What sort of threats do you anticipate in your own solar system? Vex'lar asked innocently. Oh, the usual, Kimathi replied with a casual wave. Asteroids, solar flares, unwelcome visitors. Before Vex'lar could respond to the thinly veiled warning, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Right on schedule, Kimathi noted, checking her communication device. We have detected a simulated invasion force entering the system. Please observe our standard response protocol. The viewport display shifted to show tactical data. What appeared to be a fleet of ships had appeared beyond the orbit of their moon. Automated defense platforms activated. A calm voice announced over the station's communication system. Planetary shield grid powering up. Intercept vessels deploying. Vex'lar watched in growing horror as dozens of previously invisible structures around Earth's orbit suddenly shimmered into view. Defense platforms bristling with weapons systems that their scans had completely missed. From the planet below, swarms of sleek vessels rose with impossible speed, taking up formation positions. Threat assessment completed. The calm voice continued. Diplomatic protocols bypassed due to aggressive approach vector, deploying countermeasures. The defense platforms fired in perfect synchronization. Beams of coherent energy that shouldn't have been possible with human technology lanced across space, striking the simulated invasion fleet with pinpoint accuracy. Phase 1 neutralization complete, the voice announced. Deploying Phase 2 response. The human vessels advancing toward the simulated threat suddenly accelerated to velocities that made Vex'lar's compound eyes struggle to track them. They swarmed around the remaining invaders with a coordination that suggested either incredibly advanced AI or exceptional pilot training. Demonstration complete, Kimathi said calmly as the simulated battle ended. That was, of course, a greatly simplified scenario using only our Sol system defense force. Our deep space capabilities are still classified, I'm afraid. The Vex'lar fought to keep his antennae from betraying his shock. Impressive for a species so new to interstellar awareness. Kimathi's smile took on that predatory quality he was beginning to recognize in all humans. Oh, we haven't been unaware, Commander. Just cautious about announcing ourselves. What do you mean? Tazkar asked, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. Let's just say your ship wasn't the first extraterrestrial vessel to enter our solar system, Kimathi replied, just the first to announce itself openly. The others, well, they provided valuable learning opportunities. The implication sent a chill through Vex'lar's exoskeleton. Director Kimathi, he said carefully, are you suggesting that humans have encountered other spacefaring species before the Confederation? Encountered, studied, reverse-engineered, she shrugged. We are quick learners, as your Grand Warrior discovered. But don't worry, those previous visitors weren't part of your Confederation according to our database comparison, more like opportunistic scavengers. Vex'lar's mind raced. If humans had been quietly capturing and studying alien technology for years, possibly decades, the implications were staggering. I believe, he said slowly, that the Confederation Council will need to reevaluate our approach to Earth. Wonderful, Kimathi replied brightly. We look forward to establishing mutually beneficial relations. In fact, we have already prepared a delegation to visit your Confederation homeworlds. Cultural exchange, technology sharing, trade agreements. All the standard diplomatic protocols. A delegation? Vex'lar couldn't keep the alarm from his voice. To leave Earth? Of course. Kimathi looked surprised at his reaction. That's how diplomacy works, isn't it? We visit you, you visit us. Our vessels are prepared for the journey whenever your council extends a formal invitation. Vex'lar imagined humans spreading throughout Confederation space, adapting, learning, integrating themselves into the complex political landscape with the same frightening efficiency they showed in combat. The thought was terrifying. I will convey your readiness to my superiors, he managed. 6 months later, Commander Vex'lar stood in the Confederation Council chamber on the capital world of Drak'thu, delivering his final report on humanity. His once promising career was effectively over, but he felt obligated to make the Council understand the true nature of the species they had so catastrophically underestimated. In conclusion, he said, addressing the assembled representatives of 37 spacefaring species, humans represent a unique form of evolutionary development previously unknown in the explored galaxy. Their adaptability, innovation rate, and psychological resilience make them unlike any species we have previously encountered. You speak of them as if they are some kind of super predators, scoffed Councillor Brevetain of the Moldavi hegemony, yet their physical capabilities are objectively inferior to many Confederation species. With respect, Councillor, Vex'lar replied, that perspective exemplifies the fundamental error in our assessment. We evaluated humans on familiar metrics: physical strength, sensory acuity, natural defenses. But humans evolved on a planet where they were rarely the strongest, fastest, or best armored species. They didn't become dominant through physical superiority. Through what, then? Asked a representative of the Silicon consciousness, their synthetic voice curious rather than dismissive. Pattern recognition, problem solving, tool creation, cooperative strategies, information sharing. Vex'lar's antennae dipped for emphasis. Most crucially, they evolved as pack hunters who could observe a superior predator, identify its weaknesses, and exploit them systematically. They don't need to be stronger than you, they just need to understand how you work. Murmurs spread through the chamber. You suggest we fear them, Counselor Genva of the Photonic Collective asked. I suggest we respect them, Vex'lar corrected. My research team spent 6 months studying human history and behavior. In that time, we documented something unprecedented. 17 major technological breakthroughs directly motivated by our arrival. They are not just adapting to us, they are accelerating because of us. He activated a holographic display showing a human child playing with a toy version of a Vex'lar. Their young are already being conditioned to view interspecies interaction as normal. Their entertainment now incorporates accurate depictions of Confederation species. Their languages are being updated to accommodate our communication patterns. And you believe this represents a threat? High Admiral Zifgar asked, his earlier hostility toward Vex'lar now tempered by concern. I believe it represents change. Vex'lar replied carefully, humans don't think like us, they don't plan like us. Where we see conquest or subjugation as natural expressions of superior capability, they see potential alliances. Where we value stability and hierarchy, they value innovation and disruption. He paused, gathering his courage for his final recommendation. The human diplomatic delegation will arrive at this station in approximately 14 standard cycles. They are bringing representatives from each of their major nation-states, scientific disciplines, and cultural traditions. They expect to begin integration into the Confederation as equals, not subjects. Preposterous. Counselor Breviston erupted, no species enters the Confederation as equals. There are protocols, hierarchies, centuries of service before such consideration. I recommend we accommodate them. Vex'lar continued steadily, ignoring the outburst. Based on my analysis, humans will either be the Confederation's most valuable allies or its most formidable adversaries. There is no middle ground with this species. You overstep, Commander, High Admiral Zivgor warned. Perhaps, Vex'lar acknowledged. But consider this. In the 6 months since first contact, humans have reversed engineered aspects of our propulsion technology, shield harmonics, and communication systems, not from capturing our equipment, but simply from observing our vessels in operation. Their scientists ask questions that our experts struggle to answer, not because the humans are more advanced, but because they approach problems from completely unexpected angles. He activated a final display, Captain Harding training a group of human warriors in Vex'lar combat techniques that he had learned from a single encounter. This is humanity's true strength, not their weapons or their numbers, but their ability to learn, adapt, and transform. They don't conquer, they incorporate, and they do it faster than any species we have ever encountered. Silence fell across the council chamber as the implications sank in. What would you have us do? The Photonic Collective representative finally asked. Prepare for change, Vex'lar said simply. Humanity is coming to the stars, whether as our allies or despite our resistance. The Confederation as we have known it will never be the same. 2 weeks later, Vex'lar stood in the reception area of the Confederation's diplomatic station, watching the human vessel dock with elegant precision. Despite being constructed in the 6 months since first contact, the ship incorporated design elements from multiple Confederation species, improved upon in ways that even Vex'lar's experienced eye found impressive. The airlock cycled, and the first humans stepped onto Confederation territory. To Vex'lar's surprise, the first figure through the door was Captain Jackson Harding, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's newly formed United Space Command. Commander Vex'lar. Harding greeted him with a respectful nod. Good to see you again, Captain Harding, Vex'lar replied, his translator conveying his complex emotional state. I admit, I did not expect you to be part of this delegation. Harding smiled that same predatory smile that had preceded Drak'thu's defeat. The Security Council thought it might be helpful to have a familiar face, someone who's already demonstrated an understanding of Confederation physiology. Behind Harding came a diverse group of humans, different colors, sizes, genders, all watching their surroundings with that same intense curiosity that Vex'lar had come to recognize as humanity's most dangerous weapon. The Confederation Council awaits you, Vex'lar said formally. We are ready, Harding replied, his calm confidence reflecting that of his entire species. This is what we have been waiting for all our history, Commander. A bigger universe, new challenges, new frontiers. As Vex'lar led the human delegation toward the council chamber, he reflected on the irony of his situation. He had come to Earth expecting to oversee the subjugation of a primitive species. Instead, he was escorting humanity's first steps into a galactic civilization they would inevitably transform. The humans moved with purpose, their eyes taking in everything, their minds already adapting, evolving, planning. Apex predators not because of their strength or speed, but because of their relentless drive to understand, overcome, and advance. The Confederation had laughed at humans, right up until they realized what humanity truly was. Not the prey, but the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever known. And they were just getting started.